Okay, this is for anybody that owns a company or if you're responsible for leading the success of a team or company. Somebody asks you this question: what's your vision for the company? Most times the answer is going to be, well, I want to see this organization grow, move up the ladder, soar, succeed. Fair enough. But there's way more to it than just that. And I think you're going to be surprised when you hear what we're going to talk about today in relation to having a vision for your company. He works with companies, individuals all the time to up their game when it comes to leadership. His company is Coaching for Relevance. Yes, he's a leadership coach and so much more. Randy Swaim is back on the program. Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Good. How you doing there, man? Good to see you here again, and look forward to
Yeah, good to have you back in the cockpit. No pun intended.
it. Yeah, there you go.
You are somebody who also embraces piloting, teaches that as well. And, I use the term soar because that's what we want to do, soar. But once you
And
do,
and it's interesting with my autobiography. The subtitle on it talks about soaring above the storms. So
hmm,
it's very aligned with what you just said. Yeah.
for sure, for sure. What happens when you soar? All right, we've your vision for the company. You've of course identified that you want to soar. Then what? Now that you're there, then what? I guess
Hmm.
that's what we're talking about today, right?
Yep. And we'll talk about a couple of insights that a lot of people don't think about in today's world. And so, yeah, it's a key point.
Where do we begin?
Well, I tell you what, let's talk about it. I know in the last couple of shows that we had, podcasts that we had, we sort of talked about strategic thinking. We talked about sort of strategic planning and being aware of things, and also some defining moments and things of that nature. But this one can dovetail out of that just a little bit. But I will say this: that when you're talking about a team, there's two basically concepts that a lot of time leaders or managers need to think about. One is called the mission statement, and the mission statement talks about what's our mission, what are we doing, and all that kind of stuff. But then the other one is a vision statement, and when you talk about the vision statement, this is what we want to become. But what a lot of people do in today's world is they think of that very shortly and very superficially. And if you when you think about your vision statement, if your only thing is about, I want to we want to become the best in this particular role in the industry, or we want to our vision is to raise our resources by 10%, or improve our returns by this amount, kind
Hmm.
of thing. Those are good, but those can be mission statements. But they also think, when you talk about vision statement, a vision statement is much wider and much broader than just what you're looking to become or gain out of something. And I'll just share this kind of as a fairly simple aspect of it, but it's a key point with it. When you're talking about, and it's something that a true leader needs to understand, that it's deeper and broader than just that. Because there's one aspect when you talk about a vision for your company or your team or your operation, that it's bigger than just what you want to accomplish. But part of the vision is, how does your team need to grow? What does your team need to become? With you as their leader, what do you need to develop and become, even beyond where you are right now? Even though you may
Hmm.
be doing it well right now, what's the one thing that you need to grow on or become a step further? And in your people, if you think about it, one of the things that I tell people so often in today's world, the idea is just, we want to make sure everybody on our team is doing it exactly the same way. This person, that person, and that person, they're doing exactly the same steps, exactly the same way. Well, you know what? In the real world out there, guess what? Some situations may be slightly different. And one of the things that I kind of throw out to people when you're talking about this concept of vision, there are times when you want, maybe if you've got a team of say 10 people working for you, there might be a time when one of those people needs to see a factor that everybody else didn't see yet, possibly, in order to really create success, or to know perhaps what you need to avoid, or how you might need to adapt to gain a 20% return instead of a 15% return, or something like that. But the bottom line is, when you're talking about that aspect of it, of creating people in your team, you may have it, out of the 10 people, if that's the number that you had on your team, you may have 8 of those people that have just been taught to do it this way, and they're just doing it this way. 2 of the people may be aware of a couple of other factors that nobody else saw, and they can bring that to the strategy, and you can adapt it to succeed. But if everybody is just shutting their brain off and just doing it this way every time, guess what? You're not getting there. So when you talk about the concept of vision, part of it is what the vision of what we want to grow in our company, about what we want to become. Yep, all that. It can be part of that. No two ways about it. But one of the key questions that I would throw out to people in thinking about this is, when you talk about vision and your vision statement of your team and where you're going, how clear are you on how your team may need to grow? They may need to be a little bit better, so that a couple of your people don't do it exactly the same way, but they see the other factors and they can communicate it in such a way that the team responds beautifully to the factors, kind of thing. And to what extent is your team, developing in their people in such a way that that potential in your team is growing and becoming. And the other part of that too is, if you're leading them, to what extent do you need to help develop that aspect in them, and to help them grow in that? And what do you need to do differently, rather than just telling them what to do, kind of thing. Because when you talk about the vision, yes, part of it is what we want to become, what we want to achieve, and we have a strategy for getting there and all that kind of stuff. But the other part of it also is just the opposite side on that, and that is, what does your team need to become? Even if you meet the objective that you have for this one, what do they need to become in this journey, so that they're ready to take it amazingly higher going forward? And for you as the leader, guess what? What are some of the factors that you need to think of differently and be aware of? And also, when you're interacting with your team, what do you need to do differently, so that your team can really develop that to become something where different people on the team may be observing and seeing slightly different things, but they still work together and they still bring it together for the same goals. So when you look at the concept of a vision statement, or a concept of the vision of your team, it's not just about what objective I want to achieve. Yeah, that can be part of it. But another critical part of it is, what does your team in this journey at this point here and going forward, in what ways does our team need to grow? In what ways does our team need to become, and to prepare itself for even going beyond the goal that you have set for this moment? And so when you talk about vision and sort of a vision statement, if you will, it's not just about what we want to get, patted on the back for. It's not just something we want to achieve this, we want to get this return on it, financially or whatever kind of thing, although that may be part of it. But the concept of the vision of what you're really looking to do here can be way deeper and way bigger in going forward. And so it's just a key aspect of that concept of a vision statement. How do you view, when you think about your team and when you think about your leadership, how do you view your vision statement? And to what extent do you need to see some applications of it that are a little bit different, that are beneficial for your team becoming something that can reach radical success even a year down the road. And so it's just something to think about on that. When you look at this concept of vision, it's not just about what we want to achieve out of this. There's a aspect of that too, of with where we are, what do we need to become so that we're even more ready for dramatic success going forward. And so many people in today's world just come up with a strategy of a goal on their return or whatever, and that's all they focus on. And if it doesn't work, they just kind of blame factors out there. Well, this should have been like that. This should have been like that, but it wasn't. Why wasn't your team ready to perform successfully and well in that situation and to achieve the results? And so this whole aspect of the vision statement, or the vision, the picture of the vision you're trying to achieve, can be bigger than most people realize. And so it's just kind of an interesting thought on that when you're talking about a team. And particularly, let's face it, it's very aligned with my organizational maneuverability concept. Not everything fits rote academic stuff. Not everything does that. So it's just something to think about.
Do you think, Randy, that many leaders have the vision statement? They have it. Of course, you want to succeed, you want to soar. Maybe they fix certain numbers to it, by the end of this year, the end of next year,
Mm-hmm.
but they forget about the vision for each individual member of their team.
And if you think about it, they tend to do that because academically, vision statements is kind of sort of a superficial way of what you talked about. But the bottom line is the vision, if you think about it in terms of, okay, well, how do we need to grow in this? And how do we need to become? And as a leader of my team, how do I need to interact in a way that can help them do just that?
Right.
And those are the thinking aspects that the vast majority of people today don't have. It's not just about coming up with an objective. That can be possible, no two ways about it. But there's the other aspect of it too, of what are we absolutely and truly becoming? And what do I, as a leader, what do I need to do differently to mold that and to help facilitate that in my people? And perhaps in some cases getting a whole nature in each of my people where they're thinking that on a daily basis and being aware of factors that come unseen and working together in that. And so all of that is part of it when you think about this whole concept of vision, because it's not just about what we want to accomplish here. That can be part of it, but a lot of it is in what way do we need to accomplish becoming as a team? If your whole focus is, well, I just need them to just shut up and let me tell them what to do, that's not what you want, because your people are not developed when you do that. Your people are not becoming and they're not maximizing their capability. And so it's just something to think about when you look at this concept of vision. It can be deeper and wider than most people realize. And what do you need to do in order to really create vision? If your entire vision is we want to accomplish this and have this result within the next 6 months or a year or whatever, guess what? That's the way most people think about it. But it's like, in a sense, it's, well, in order to do that and ensure that we get there, how do we need to grow as a team? And what do we need to think differently sometimes? And what do we need to be aware of? And how do we need to interact together as a team? Not to do exactly the same thing all the time, but be aware of the factors that come unseen that can be getting in the way a little bit and things of that nature. And also, what do we need to develop in this journey so that going forward, we're ready for even more challenging situations that might arise? And so, when you think of this whole aspect of vision as a leader, it's bigger and wider than most people realize. And if you can kind of get some thoughts on it, that, hey, you know what? In order to help us grow, I need to do this a little bit different.
Hmm.
Okay, do it.
I'm
And
gonna I'm
so,
gonna challenge you for a moment here.
sure, sure.
Can you give us in your process of helping somebody with the vision for their company, the vision for their team, give me one actionable step or training that you provide within your process that can help somebody move the needle in the right direction?
I will tell you that with coaching clients that I've kind of worked with, 99 times out of 100, if you ask the right question,
Hmm.
they're going to be stunned and get to the dramatic answer. And I will tell you this as a leader, very often, if you're asking the right questions, instead of just pointing fingers and telling them what to do, if you're asking the right question that helps develop them, sometimes they'll come up with something that makes you go, oh, yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that, but yeah, that'll work, kind of thing. You never know. And I think I shared with you before on a show some time ago, but I was coaching a lady who had actually come into a worldwide, it was kind of a ministry opportunity kind of thing, but she was told she was going to come in and take over the operation of it. But she was frustrated because the person that was kind of the head of it, wasn't having her take over the operation of it and everything. And basically, I just uh, asked her a question, and it just made her almost break into tears. And what was amazing is I said, "So what's it going to take for you to overcome this?" And she kind of, chatted with me a little bit. Well, they went on an operation, and she came back, and she was talking about it incredibly, amazingly well.
Hmm.
And I said, "It's interesting. That was not what you were describing a few weeks ago." And she said, "Yeah." And a friend of hers asked her what what made her grow and what made her change and become. And she looked at me and she said, "When you asked me that question."
Wow.
And so, as a leader, instead of just pointing fingers and telling people what to do, now in a real challenging situation, might you have to do that? Maybe. But afterwards, if you ask the right questions that get them to perceive the right answer, then that can be. But if you can ask the right questions along the way that get them to really sort it out in their processing of their frontal lobe in their brain, and they start seeing the real application, amazing things can happen. And so when you're talking about that, you can ask the right questions. And I don't mean just questions that lead them to academic answers you want them to give you. No, ask the right questions that engender their processing ability in their mind. And
Hmm.
a lot of times that can do the work. But unfortunately, that's not something that a lot of people in today's world think about. But it is true. If you can do that, amazing things can happen in who your team becomes, and how they are prepared for things that you didn't expect before.
Well,
And so that's a key point.
sure. It's been said before. One of the most beneficial things you can do in sales is ask the right questions. Of course, listen. You
Yep,
have to listen to
that's
the
right.
answer.
That's right.
But
That's
yeah,
right.
to your point, if you ask the right questions, it's almost as if you took out a laser and got right to the core of what's going on, uncovering the information, and then processing it, and then taking in the right direction. So yeah, thank you for the reminder on
Yeah.
that.
And I will say this too, that having that wider picture of vision on who your team is becoming and stuff, when you hear the answer that they give you to that question, if it's obvious they're just coming across with some superficial academic answer, you got to think about the next question you want to ask them that engenders their processing. Because guess what? Not everything fits a rote academic thing. And so it's just a key point on that. But this whole concept, like we said, of the vision is so much bigger than most people realize. It's
Hmm.
not just what we want to achieve over here. It's, bigger than that. It's what we're becoming in the process. It's how we're preparing for the future, for the unpredictable, facts going forward, and how we're really becoming and developing. And that's a key part of it. No two ways about it.
Do you feel in your coaching and your travels that there are some companies that can't get out of their way because they haven't there's efficiency plans aren't in place. They they have a loose vision, but they haven't really documented it. And it's just, if the car's going down the street, cars going down the street, money's being wasted,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yep. And then tell you what, in that respect, there are a lot of operations out there that do just that.
Mm.
Because guess what? When you come up with vision, what they're thinking about is this is how we want to do that. This is what we want this to do. And our mission statement is going to show us strategically how to get to there. Well, you know what? If you're doing it just that way, your team's kind of shutting their brain off in a lot of ways. And guess what? You may not get there when unexpected factors come on scene, or your team is not further prepared to go forward even beyond that. And so there's a lot of aspects about that can come up with a lot of operations that are out there because they think in vision statements in this very narrow, well, this is what we want to become.
Sure. Nobody wants to be in the car with somebody that's swerving down the road.
That's right. That's right. And it's key, but it's like, part of your vision statement. How do you need to become even going forward? How do your people need to become going forward? And these are things that are part of the vision that most people don't ever think about.
Well, I look at it this way. It's one thing to be in a car that's swerving all over, a little unnerving. It's another thing to be on a roller coaster that's on a track. You know where it's going. Yes, you know it's going to do this, but you know it's going to do this. And that is like stocks, like investments, like life. It's going to go, but at least you know you're on the right track. When you're in that car swerving all over the place, and obviously somebody's driving the car, i.e., the owner of the company, that's uncomfortable going all over the place.
But you know what? People that are driving the car, if you know you're going to the right location and they're becoming in how they're getting the car to where you want to be, and how they're becoming in that can be where they're not doing this anymore. They're just going straight down the road. That can be a big thing. That can be a big growth.
Well, sure. But if you know where you're going and you've got things together, i.e. you've done some coaching with somebody, invariably the car is not going to do this so much. Right. It's going to be more like this or in a straight line. Randy, how do we find you? How do we connect? How do we even, maybe somebody wants to ask some questions?
Well, I'll tell you what, as you know, my website is coachingforrelevance.com, right up here kind of thing. And if you go there, right at the bottom of the page, it shows my email and it shows my cell phone so people can call. As you know, I don't do cold sales pitches over the phone. If somebody wants to, if it turns out somebody needs something, we'll come up with something. Find out what their goal is or what they need and everything. But if somebody just wants to have a conversation, I'll be glad to welcome that and stuff. And it's that's the easiest way to probably get in touch with me.
For sure. Randy is not a commissioned salesperson. Randy is a qualified, trained leadership coach who wants to help you. That's the difference right there.
There you go.
Awesome. Coachingforrelevance.com. Randy, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Same. We'll be right back.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.